What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so it's kind of a slow news day, but we had an interesting report come out from the CBO. As a matter of fact, y'all check this out. CBO, Trump's tariffs will reduce deficits by $4 trillion over the next decade. That's fascinating. It's very fascinating. Now, there's a lot in here that needs to be corrected. Like there's some misnomers, a lot of that little minutia stuff, but I will go over all that. Let's get into this right quick. A report released on Friday by the Congressional Budget Office predicted that President Donald Trump's tariffs will reduce federal deficits by around $4 trillion over the next decade. If Trump's global tariff hikes continue, increased revenue could shrink primary deficits by $3.3 trillion and cut federal interest payments by $700 billion over the next decade, the CBO said. The current top tariff rates may not hold as negotiations with trading partners and international legal challenges are ongoing. So what they're basically saying is they took the numbers from the current levels, and we know that that's not going to remain in place right now because some of the tariffs, he's actually punishing certain countries like India for fueling the war machine in Russia right now. So their tariffs are a little bit higher. So you can expect that number to not be as high, but still, that's very, very good. The previous estimates, we'll get into that, I think it was $2.5 trillion. Any reduction to the deficit is a good thing in my opinion, especially when it's over the amount of annual deficit spending, right? Because we're spending $1.8 trillion more than what we take in annually. That's an absurd number that needs to be fixed. We got to get this country back on track, y'all. And then you got everybody from left to right to over there screaming about all these budget cuts and these employee cuts and all this other stuff. We've got to make some cuts somewhere. It doesn't seem like it sinks in. It doesn't seem that $1.8 trillion deficit spending annually just can't continue. They don't seem to get this. Either that or they don't know that number. This is why I constantly repeat that number. That is an insane number. We got to get back to some sort of balanced budget. We must do that. Our debt is just insane. It really is, y'all. Let's keep going. We estimate that the effective tariff rate for goods imported into the United States has increased by about 18 percentage points when measured against 2024 trade flows, the Budget Office said in its report, adding that Trump's tariffs would reduce the need for federal borrowing, which is always good, folks. The CBO also said it projects further increases in tariff revenues in the coming months, and that if there are no further changes in tariff rates, we project that customs duties from new and existing tariffs will total about $200 billion this fiscal year. That's good, but we know there's going to be changes. So it's not going to be as good as what they're trying to make it out to be right now. But the office cautioned that revenues often lag several months behind the implementation of tariff policies, noting that once the tariff rates are in effect, they don't get applied to goods that are already in transit to the United States. In addition, importers have the option to delay payments by up to 6 weeks by participating in Customs and Border Protection's periodic monthly statement program, added the CBO, which is a federal agency with the legislative branch that provides budget and economic information to both houses of Congress. In July, Congress passed the GOP-backed One Big Beautiful Bill Act that contained several major Trump priorities on energy, the border, spending, and tax cuts. The CBO has said it would add around $3.4 trillion to the national deficit over the coming decade, although the White House has disputed those figures. That is because, they disputed them for a very good reason, folks. Very, very good reason, because the CBO's projections of annual GDP growth was anemic, to say the least. 1.8%. That's it. You go look at our GDP growth historically. It's always been above 2%. I know you might be thinking, what's a couple of tenths of a percent? Well, when we're talking about, 20-something trillion dollars, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. All right, so their estimates are bunk. If you estimate at, I think it was 2.25% GDP growth, everything evens out. If you go above that, then we're making money, folks. We're massive reductions in the deficit. We're no longer deficit spending on an annual basis. That's a good thing. That's the possibilities of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, if you will. And I think if you look historically at Trump's last presidency, by the end of it, we were hovering around 3% GDP growth, which is phenomenal, by the way. If we can get to that, if we can get above 2.5%, this country will be booming just like it was in 2019. And with all the tariffs and everything that Donald Trump is doing, cutting the federal deficit back, cutting the workforce back, all the cuts to USAID, the education department, and all these other little minor agencies, this country is going to be on track to balance the freaking budget. Now, it's probably not going to happen under Trump's term because these things take years, folks. These things take years to come to fruition. But the setup, right? Donald Trump is going for the long game here. If we can get another fiscal hawk, somebody who really cares about deficit spending and balancing the budget to come into office in 2028, this country could get back to its glory days, if you will, with growth and everything like that. It's could be good, could be very good. That's if we get above that 2.25%. We need to get above that. So we need the tax cuts to promote growth, and we need the Fed to destroy itself. Yeah, we need the Fed to actually shut itself down and no longer regulate money. No, I'm just kidding. That would be nice for a lot of people, but we need them to bring interest rates down, which it looks like they're fitting to do that. As a matter of fact, they fitting to. They're definitely about to do that. They've been announcing that they're about to make rate cuts here pretty soon. So, yeah, they need to. And as a matter of fact, they will, at least by 2026, because that's when Jerome Powell, Too Late Powell, as he is colloquially known, is not going to be the Fed chair anymore. Somebody else is going to come in. Donald Trump's going to get to pick a new Fed chair again. The Trump administration has also said that the tariffs and policies initiated under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which Trump backed and signed into law, would bring forth economic growth over the coming years that would offset any additions to the national deficit. It was the largest tax cuts for middle and working class families in our nation's history, and the president wants to see this country get our fiscal house in order. That's why this was a fiscally responsible bill, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on July 21st in response to the CBO report on the bill. In a statement on Thursday, the White House again touted the bill by posting excerpts from a series of recent newspaper articles that praised the measure. Earlier this month, the administration also said that Americans would see an average tax cut of $3,752 under the bill, citing a report from the nonprofit organization, the Tax Foundation. Friday's report from the CBO comes as Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that Canada would scrap some of its retaliatory tariffs against the United States. Trump imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico earlier this year, saying those measures were necessary to curb illegal immigration and fentanyl trafficking into the country. He's right about that. Mark Carney was very vocal against this. And he was one of those, kind of a reactionary, if you will, by bashing his face into the freaking wall when Donald Trump announced retaliatory tariffs. Think about that for a second. Okay, so Donald Trump announces retaliatory tariffs. And in complete concert with each other, the corporate press start bashing their face against the wall, saying, oh my God, how could he do this to one of our best friends, our closest neighbor and ally, Canada? I don't know if the corporate press, I think they think that we're all just stupid, because that whole qualifier right there, retaliatory, means that we're retaliating. That means we were slighted upon. Canada imposed tariffs on us first. And they're going to get mad at Donald Trump for retaliating. Like when you get hit in the face, your natural reaction is to hit them back. Right? For the most part, that's your natural reaction. At least for most people. Some people, their natural reaction is to curl up into a ball in the corner and start crying. Well, that is not Donald Trump. That is not what the leader of the free world does, as a matter of fact. We hit back. You want to play games? You're going to win some very, very stupid prizes. We have the best deal of anyone in the world right now, Carney told reporters in Ottawa. Today, the government of Canada is harmonizing its tariffs with the U.S. Oh, that's a massive change, don't you think? It's insane, y'all. It is insane the reaction we get from a lot of these people. And what I don't get is people just don't care about reality. They will listen to the corporate press and their delusional drivel and then regurgitate those talking points all over the place and pretend that the corporate press never lies and never manipulates anything at all. And they just regurgitate lies. That, as a matter of fact, I've postulated this before in the past, that is the difference between left and right in this country, conservatives and Democrats for the most part. There's outliers, of course. But that's the vast majority of the difference. People that will hear something and just nod right along and then repeat whatever they heard and don't think about that at all, don't do any critical thought, don't fact check it, don't look into it, don't even think about it at all, and just repeat it as if it's true. And the people that will hear that same thing and be like, hang on, let me think about this for a second. Yeah, something doesn't seem right about this. Let me go fact check. That's the difference today. That's the hyperpolarization. Don't you think that's an absurdity? Like, let me know down in the comments. That seems like an absurdity, don't it? That the difference between people is, are you a sheeperson? Or are you somebody that actually thinks, has critical thought, and fact checks what you're told? Doesn't just take their word for it. Just applies a little bit of skepticism. That's the difference, I think. Sure, we have policy differences and differences in worldview. But, you can't really debate facts. And that's something I see all the time. People attempting to debate facts. Those are non-debatable, by the way. You can't have a fake fact. That's not a fact at that point, is it? No, it's not. So you can't debate facts. So if we can't agree on reality, that leaves a lot of room for polarization, if you will. It's all very fascinating, but I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. How do you think this is going to play out with the tariffs and all that other stuff? I know the tariff rates, the current tariff rates, they're going to come down. He's making trade negotiations all the time. Pretty good ones, I might add. The tariffs are going to be there. Where do you think the deficits are going to land? You think we're ever going to get back to any sort of fiscal responsibility? Let me know down in the comments. But that's all I got. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you like what you heard. And share this video if you'd be so inclined. I'd appreciate that. And hey, look, click that join button. That'd be even better. If I had to choose between one or the other one, I'd say click that join button. Sign up and become a member. Help this channel join the movement of pushing back against the narrative. Pushing back against the lies, the manipulation of the corporate press. That's what we do around here, folks. But y'all do all that for me. And y'all remember that God is always with us. And He loves each and every one of you out there. So y'all remember that. Y'all try to have a good day. And stay legitical. Peace.